I always have to remember that you do that. And don't come into the session until I'm 100% composed and ready.
All our secrets before we start the actual recording. How are you?
Not bad. Freezing my ass off.
Yeah, there was a monsoon last night. Did you, or were you asleep?
I was very asleep.
I woke up at 2:30. It was like literally the monsoon. Like, what's going on? Like, the whole London will get flooded.
Oh,
we might have snow tomorrow or something. I'm like, yeah, right.
Come on, man. I'm done with this winter.
Yeah, that's why we went. I went to Dubai. You went to Madrid, right? To get a better weather. I mean, I don't even know what weather you had in Madrid, but hopefully a bit better than here.
Cold. Cold. It was actually beautiful, except for the final night, and it rained, but it was lovely. Good trip, good experience.
Oh, I was about to think that you would say the final night of BA. Rain.
Yeah.
Guys, he warned me that he wanted to do a rant today. I don't know when he's going to come. At some point during this episode, there's going to be a rant, so let's play this.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
Please wish me luck. I will have to endure,
Yeah,
Alex.
All of you will. You know what? It won't be that bad. I was just frustrated.
We're recording today, the 7th of March, 2023. A thought for our friends in France. It's a general strike.
Oh.
I think all the flights from all the airports have been cancelled in France. I think all the long hauls have been cancelled by Air France. I think there's like 1 or 2 short haul flying.
Ugh.
Is it worse in Germany 3 weeks ago when, remember there was like an outage, an IT outage, plus there was some hacking, plus there was a labor strike, plus there was, I don't know, there was nothing. Yeah. We're complaining in the UK, but it's not that bad, right?
No, we've had a season of strikes this year, which for us was unprecedented, but for France it was just Tuesday.
Okay, let me start with the music. For Gen, as always, Gen, I hope it's not raining and you're not on strike. So we have an episode chock full of stuff. I will say, before we start, we started, that I don't know if I can release this today. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe by the end of the week, so we're the March 7. I don't know if we're going to be able to do another episode in March, however, so I might wait or not. We'll see. I'm not calculating days between episodes. We'll start with, it was a very nice surprise, a review from Kim, whom we mentioned in the last episode. We gave her a shout out. She's Hakan's neighbor.
That was so cool.
And she gave us 5-star on iTunes, on Apple Podcast. The only podcast that an AV geek needs. That's very nice.
That is nice.
Yeah. She says that she's been listening to Layovers for years. As that young girl would just love to go to the airport to be with the planes, I knew immediately when I listened to Paul and Alex that I had found like-minded folks. This podcast has been a source of fantastic resources and insights. Alex's pandemic travel made me aware of the Plane Finder app, and that kept me hopeful when the skies were not as full of planes as they had previously been. The guests are amazing, especially my neighbor Hakan.
That was such a great little coincidence.
Yes, exactly. And I love the informal format of two good friends talking about their shared love of travel, aviation, and adventures, exploring new and familiar destinations. While I join other reviews in wishing for more episodes, I love the wonderfully unexpected treat when I am notified that there is a new one. Thanks so much, Paul and Alex. You guys are the best. Keep doing great things.
No, that's very, very kind.
Yeah, honestly, that's so nice. And we had also on Twitter from Pierre Guy C. I guess that's your Twitter handle. Maybe I said it in a French way, but I'm not sure. So it's PGC, just in time. So that was as a reply to our previous episode. Just in time for my next flight today. Thank you, Paul and Alex. Each episode is a pure joy to listen to. So grateful for your infectious passion and your work on this podcast.
Wow. Infectious passion. I like that.
Yeah, I like that. And a lot of work. Do I do a lot of work, actually?
Yeah, you do a lot of work on this.
No, I was not fishing for a compliment, Alex. It was not the point.
No, I don't. No, I think it's absolutely true. This is a labor of love.
Oh, I'm blushing. You cannot see that because it's not live. Oh yeah, and we missed. I missed on Instagram. So it was, on Instagram you can get tagged on a picture, and I hadn't seen that. We had been tagged. That dates back from late last year, actually. But it's a picture of somebody listening to our episode 120. So Yule, the Canadian episode. I've never been to Canada.
You've never been to Canada?
From FKD, so top scientists, and he or she, I guess it's a he, but I'm not sure, is flying over Guyana, so south of Venezuela, and I think the end destination is Lima, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know you guys, but guys, you're a single person. I don't know you, but it was very nice to tag us and let us know if that's Lima you ended up. I've never been to Lima. Have you, Alex?
No, I've never been.
Yeah,
not yet.
I'm might be going somewhere in the region this year, but I'm not sure yet. It's really up in the air, as my friend George Clooney would say. Bless you.
I hope I was muted.
You were.
That would have been deafening otherwise.
Another friend, that's not a review, but we're thinking of him, Matt, at Drink Matt, on Matthew Drinkwater. So the poor sod is, he was supposed to go to Japan for the next holidays. So when is that? Like next month?
Imminently, yeah.
That's a trip that's been in the works since 2019, maybe early 2020, and we all know what happened. And everything was booked, everything was fine, and it was on SAS, and then suddenly SAS, he received a text, and your flights have been cancelled, because apparently they changed the schedule, and now they do like only, I think, once a week to Haneda instead of maybe twice to wherever. I don't know the details. Of course, it's not fun, especially because the kids were also very looking forward to go, and then suddenly we cannot accommodate another flight in the same period, so it will have to be for another time. The reason I mentioned that is that it has happened to a few other friends who had recently their flights cancelled, and we both know, but I think it's nice that we talk about it for like 20 seconds because you have a long show. The reason that happens, the operational changes happen probably a bit more these days than they used to, is that the industry cannot rely on historical data for the moment. They are a little bit flying blind as to know where are people going, when are they going. The corporates are not really traveling fully yet. And thus, they are making more changes than they used to because the historical data is completely biased or absent. And I think that sadly, they cannot. So suddenly if they see a surge, let's say, for Bangkok and not enough people for Tokyo, in that case, I really don't know if that's the case for SAS here. Well, they just have economically to do so. But then, of course, if you're a passenger, you're unhappy because you get canceled. So that's why it's happening. It seems to be happening a lot for the summer. Yeah,
and as you say, they all have a lot of planes parked all over the world, and it's not like they can go quick, let's go grab one out of the desert to fill that capacity, because it takes a lot longer than that. I'd love to know how involved that process is, but
you and me would totally do that. That should be our job, just grabbing aircrafts out of the desert.
Yeah. Those companies just kind of boomed during the pandemic in Southern California and Australia, and I think in Spain and parts of France as well. So it would be interesting to know that. But yeah, it is a bit of a nightmare scenario for the airlines because, as you say, they've got nothing to go on. And I think hopefully it's not. I can tell you as a fact, it's not going to change the way they do things. But you'd hope that the way that they forecast may change as a result of this. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it will take. It's like Ed, our friend Ed Parsons said, the machine needs restarting, and it's not that I'm giving a free pass. I know as a passenger, it sucks if you get cancelled. I mean, thank God it hasn't happened to me yet. However, I also understand that they need to do these operation changes, sometimes reallocating aircraft to other routes, etc., because they see like there's a softer demand on some destination they thought would work, and then so it's so I'm not giving them a free pass, but I think it's understandable that they have to do so. Since we're in Japan, we're doing a few news before we go to both our travels, especially the rent of Alex. JAL is buying the 350-1000. It's quite something because JAL never had anything else than Boeing.
Yeah.
It's the first time they will have something else, obviously, something else being Airbus. I think it's only fair that companies are trying to load balance between the two and working out the competition. But it's still something that has happened.
Yeah, and it seems like the more that I've read just in the periphery about Boeing lately, they just can't deliver on what they have, their order logbook. Yeah. With all of these issues that keep coming up. Even there was a new one today with the fuel system or fuel tanks for the 767 and the military tanker version of the 767. So they can't deliver them. There was the production stopped on the Dreamliner for
twice. It stopped like 2 weeks ago again or something.
Right. So it's you can see why airlines are looking to Airbus, who may be able to, who may also have similar problems. We just don't hear about them as much, but also may be able to say, they've got a 2.5 year delay. We only have a year delay. Which are you going to take? And I think that's probably why they're glancing in the direction.
And the 777X is delayed until 2014. No, I'm kidding, obviously, but we don't know. Basically, we don't know what's going to come up. So the rumor is that this will include a new first class 111. So like on Emirates 777 or on Cathay. These are still very rare. I don't know if that's going to happen, but yeah, that's cool. And yes, I know, because I mentioned these two, I need to, and I will commit to do it this year. I will review on this show my flight with Cathay on first in 2019, and absolutely need that, the Emirates first in the 777 with that most amazing seat, because I think that's worth a few minutes. I'll do that this year.
Definitely.
At some point when I don't travel, I will. I promise you guys. Japan Airlines, since I'm on them, is also expecting to move its operation to T8 in JFK in May.
So the one world fortress is really, really coming together there.
The group hug.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm going back through T8 in just a couple of weeks, and I need to spend a bit more time poking around at the facilities there, because all I could, and I mentioned it on the last episode, that lounge is great. I'm looking forward to going back. However, I want to see it at capacity, and I think it would be uncomfortable. And I cannot remember if there are other lounges in there. I'm sure if you guys know, just let me know before I go. I'm just curious, because it would feel cramped, I think, otherwise.
Yeah, the 3 lounges you mentioned, right?
Sort of. There's a business class lounge. There's a first class lounge, and then there's the equivalent of the Concorde room. So the Concorde room, I can't imagine makes that much of a dent in capacity.
Yeah.
And like I said, the physical footprint of those 2 other lounges is nothing compared to the 2. Well, actually, if you think about it, it's more than 2 business class lounges at T5, isn't it? Because you have the ones in the satellite piers as well. Yeah. So it's 4 business class lounges and 1 first class lounge.
Yeah, I think so. 4 plus 1. Yeah, you're right.
But that's why I want to have a little bit of a poke around when I go next month, just to see what the situation is. And I appreciate that JAL, Qatar, I guess Finnair, and those guys, they're only going to have one, maybe 2 flights a day.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They're not going to have a huge impact. But then if you think about how many times American and BA fly out of there, it'll be interesting to see. But I'm confident that they've thought about that.
Yeah, actually, can't wait for next episode which we'll record when you return from New York, because I've lived through the various adventures of you trying to book and make choices of how you would go there and how you would go back. So I don't even have the definitive answer of exactly what you've done, and that's going to be the surprise for next show.
Massively overthinking this, but yeah.
I have a hint that it might be slightly different than what you did last time.
Yes.
There you go.
That is a certainty. The rest of it is all still to George Clooney up in the air.
JAL also recently introduced a new ethical choice for passengers when you are, after booking, when you make your various choices, you can skip the meal. So if you're planning to sleep, instead of choosing a meal, you can also choose to skip the meal. Of course, the ethical bit is a bit probably marketing, although they are saying that for every person that skips their meal because they're planning to sleep, for instance, they will give a donation to a program that offers free meals for a school in some countries, like probably emerging countries. So that's very nice. So that's ethical, obviously. What do you think about that?
That's purely a cost-saving exercise. And I think we're all very acutely aware of these things now. Like we can see right through greenwashing, all of that stuff. And it's good because we're calling out organizations that are half-assing initiatives. I'm not saying this is, I haven't read enough, so I can't comment on this particular one, but it feels on the face of it. You know, I get disproportionately irritated by food waste. So
that's exactly what I was about to mention. There are some numbers that actually, you know, I forgot to mark them down. I think it was IATA. There's a lot of food waste. It's like up to 20% of what gets in a flight, I think, gets eaten or not even touched at all. So in that sense, if you know for sure that you're going to sleep, and you can request not to have the meal, why not? Thank God, JAL says that you're still going to have, you know, drinks and, you know, the peanuts and whatever, so the snacks. You not skip the meal doesn't mean they're not going to give you anything. But you don't get, by the way, because of course that's a question, you don't get a fare reduction because you decide not to have the food. So it's really just because you don't want the food. You're not going to get like 10% off because you decided not to have the food, right? So
I don't know how I feel about that. I think there's been a number of occasions, especially on red eyes from the East Coast, where I just want to go straight to sleep and I would happily forego the meal. Yeah. And it's no skin off my back, whether it goes just as long as it reduces race, anything else is gravy.
Yeah, I do agree. You really have to restart Mastication Nation after that one. That was a great pun right there. I don't know if that was part of the plan, surely not, but similarly, JAL recently, they made the headlines, and they made me laugh. There was this person that flew business class on JAL on a long haul in Asia. I think it was Tokyo to somewhere in Southeast Asia. Asked for a vegan meal and was served a single banana.
You know, I thought that was quite sweet, the way that they presented it on a tray. And
it was perfect, man.
It was beautiful. I cannot remember the Japanese word for the presentation of things like that, but it was very in the spirit of that. But also, like, Japanese cuisine in the broadest sense of the word leans very heavily on vegetables. Yeah. There must have been some kind of was the meal not loaded, and they didn't want to give the passenger nothing. But it was very sweet.
The excellent bit about this is how the passenger reacted, because the passenger was not angry whatsoever. The passenger said, and I have the two quotes here. First said, I don't remember if it was she or he, said, it was a really good banana. First, he took it with a smile. And then added, it was cute of the crew to serve the banana with chopsticks.
It is sweet. I mean, there was no lack of effort there, clearly.
No, clearly not. Yeah, exactly. I'm very good with chopsticks. I've never tried a banana with chopsticks, however.
No, I think
that's my challenge for this month.
You'd have to have some pretty strong fingers to be able to do that.
Haneda, man, I'm talking about this, makes us miss Japan. Haneda will open Haneda Airport Garden, which will be connected to Terminal 3, I think. It has a rooftop spa. There's going to be an onsen with, I think, 4 different bathing zones and shops and restaurants. It's part of a hotel complex, so I understand that part of it will be open to the public, part of it you'll have to be a checked-in guest, 24 hours a day. That's very cool. That's another version of a garden. We have now the one in Singapore, we have the one in Doha. This one is outdoor, is very probably different, but that's cute that they do that.
It's a great idea. Yeah, it's a great idea. I can't wait to get back to Japan.
Yeah, man. You know what? I was thinking the other day, there's parts of me that is pushing it back. Of course, first, because I want to make it count. I don't want to go for 5 days and come back. So I need to have like an actual period when I can go for longer. And also when prices are not crazy like they are right now. So that will push it to the end of the year. But also there's something, it's the only time for like, I don't know, 15 years, whatever, when I want to feel that when I will go, Japan, it will be like a new country. So the kind of, there's this anticipation. The more I wait, not that I'm going to wait for 5 years, obviously, the more it feels that I would have not gone for, let's say, 5 years at some point. And maybe, especially Tokyo changes so fast, like new buildings and new stuff, that it will feel so fresh. So there's parts of me that
that's a great point.
Don't want to rush there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just
I have the same feeling about Hong Kong, but in a negative way, that it will have changed beyond all recognition.
Are you planning to go back this year?
I'd like to.
Yeah.
I don't have any firm plans at the moment, but it's an ambition, I think.
Yeah. Another way to go to Asia is obviously via Finnair. And the reason I mentioned that is because one of our very loyal listeners, Michael Leppa, did try, that was end of last year, but I never had the chance to talk about it, did try the new Finnair seat, that new business class seat. And it's the flattest flat seat. And I love the way he puts it, because it's not a seat trying to be a bed.
That's true.
Yeah. It's a flat area and a backrest. It's still a millimeter game. Walls will be touched, but it still won me over. One more obvious life hack from the return flight: bulkhead seats have larger footwells. So it's still angled, but the difference of being able to sleep turned both ways versus only one way in a non-bulkhead seat is great. So yeah, so he's won over. I really want to try that.
Yeah, me too. And it was a polarizing product when it launched. I think conceptually. But now that people are able to travel on it and experience on it, I think there are some detractors. Those still remain, but those who are not passenger experience experts and have experienced a broad spectrum of business class seats are saying similar things.
And honestly, I mean, first, it makes sense for the weight. We mentioned it. There's not a lot of, engines and motors that make the seat work. And that's the thing. The seat will work. It's like the seat will, we're sorry, we need to reset it. Or the engine is too old to work, like I had on Emirates like a few months ago. I mean, there's a lot of benefit. And it kind of also works with a kind of whole feel. Maybe, okay, here's a cliche I'm going to use, but the Scandinavian approach to design.
Yeah.
I know some people will say Finland is not part of Scandinavia, but, that's a long discussion. But point is, I think it worked. I mean, I'm really looking forward to try it.
I am too. It was and I think every now and then you have somebody who does a revolutionary approach to a seat concept as opposed to just these small iterations or basically rebadging an off-the-shelf seat concept, which we see so often. And actually, frankly, I think is fine because you have the availability of parts, which we know has scuppered BA's A380 reintroduction, just this supply chain issue for parts. And when you have seats like this, I think, as we've said, the complexity is reduced, but also it may get people thinking slightly differently for their next iteration of business class. And I think that's always exciting.
Yeah, and as someone who likes to kind of cross my leg over the seat, whatever, I think that will be like in a kind of loungy.
Mm-hmm, me too.
This is why I used to appreciate the very large Singapore airline seat.
Beautiful.
I know he had these distractors because it was a weird way to make it a bed, and he had to be like angled and whatever. And I was tall as well, so I had to kind of sleep in diagonal. But the fact that it was kind of loungy, I really appreciated it. Man.
It was clever.
Yeah, so I will. So last time I went to Japan, I went again with that Emirates first. I'm not going to do it today, guys. That was the Formula One seat on the 777. But previous than that, it was in summer 2019 when I went. I used Lufthansa, and I was in first on the 748. That triggers two things that I want to talk before we move on to our travels. First, the new first class, the new business class of Lufthansa, and then the 747. Let's start with the first class of Lufthansa. I think the reason, we don't always talk about every single introduction of new seats and et cetera, the reason I think this one is significant, besides that Lufthansa, come on guys, it's been a long time, dude, that you had to change your, it's the first real new product post-COVID. I think it's the first...
Yeah.
like clearly it has been planned before. It's not something that they just started thinking about like 6 months ago, but it's a first big product launch of since the pandemic. Yes, Emirates has done, the refreshment, but that's still a refreshment. They still the same seats, better, but the same seats. Virgin has extended the door, and Air France has a slightly better Safran seat, but they still feel very similar to what you find on BA Club Suite, etc., or Delta, whatever. This one is like completely new, both in business and in first, and I think that's significant. I mean, I don't know if we'll be lucky, if I'll be ever lucky to fly again on first with or even business with Lufthansa. Not that I'm losing my status there. They finally shown the product. It was in Berlin. That's the one that's going to be introduced in their 350. 350 seems to be for them to be their flagship. Clearly, they're looking at it as being the flagship. It's going to only have 3 first-class suites, 111. But I say 111, if you've also looked at the seat itself, it feels like the middle one can accommodate 2 people.
Yeah.
So it's 121. But it's not going to be someone you don't know, but it has to be someone you know, because there's only one door for 2, so it only opens on the left side. So it's either Megan and you, or just Megan, of course.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not Megan and Paul. That would make no sense.
No, it's a. You're right, and I think because there's so few seats, I think that that's kind of a selling point, isn't it? It was like those Singapore Airlines ones, but it's it's a pretty intense design.
That's the term.
And it looks when they reduce the frame of the shots that they're presenting, it looks like something a space you would see on the ground. Yeah, like a pod hotel, an upscale pod hotel, and I think it's very, very, very impressive.
Yeah, it is. It looks different as well. I mean, of course, it's easier to look different in first class. All the first classes have their own, quirks and perks, and different across different airlines who do them. But yeah, doors up to the sky. So really, it looks really nice. I'm still. If I had that kind of money to always spend first class, I don't, and I'm with my better half, I still wish that they had put 2 doors on that middle seat, because it means that the person who sleeps on the right will have to step over the other to exit to the lavatory and to get a drink, which is not very firsty, classy type of design. But maybe there's a reason. I don't know.
I'm sure that there was a huge debate about that in the design process. There was some physical limitation, and they've tried to PR around it, but everybody, of course, has picked up on it. And if you look at I think you sent it to me, and we both had the exact same comment. One of the renders that they put out when they announced this product was a top-down look of the business class cabin, right?
Okay, yeah, go on, because I was about to move to the business class,
And it looked so intricate, complex. I mean, it was beautiful in its complexity if you didn't have to maintain it.
Exactly. I mean, because
there's so many different angles and iterations, and
not a single seat resembles another. Basically,
no. And
that's crazy.
It is. You would have thought that maybe with our amateur eyes, we're missing that it's all modular. It's all the same components.
Probably.
It's all and it's all really easy to replace one piece with another piece. We're just not seeing that.
It, yeah.
I hope that that's the thinking behind it, and that it doesn't cause major dispatch reliability issues or welcome aboard. I'm sorry, your seat doesn't recline for 12 hours.
Because that's the thing. It's okay. Since we are in business class now, they have, I think, I counted, there must be at least 14 options, because the 2, and I'm not going to go every single one of them, but the one in the front are like now they do, like on Virgin, on JetBlue, Mint, they have because there's more room, they created a larger space, and they added even higher doors. So the seats in the front have higher doors in business class. The seats in the rest of the cabin. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's a selling point. Maybe they're going to upsell those. And you can also create like a double, like a room. Again, you and Megan together, it becomes a suite in the middle, or a single if you're by the room. And that's by the window. And these beds are pretty large. And then you have two throne seats, so seats that where you're by yourself and you have like on both sides like a working desk if you want. There's of course the window seats. There's two seats that have extra long bed. So you can choose if you're tall like me or tall like you. Maybe you want to seat that has extra long bed. There's also one that is specially done for bassinet. So if you have a baby or a cot with a privacy window added on top. There's a double seat in the last row, which is not the same double seat that you and Megan would have in the first row, which is smaller but can also lower the middle so you can have like a feeling of being, but there's no door. And then there's a regular seat. And then you add that on both sides because you have, eye on the left, on the right, and there's two cabins. So there's at least 14 options. I just don't, simply as an AV geek, you and me, let's say that we were to fly this, I would both love it to discover every single seat and hate it that every single time I have to make a choice. It's not anymore about, window or not. It's like, which of the seat do I want on this seat map?
That's a great point. And Johnny, the designer, he obviously has a great take on this. And he was tweaking the press release that came from the seat manufacturer.
Okay.
It was cute, basically saying that they have, where is it? With Allegris, which is the
name of the
product line.
Yeah.
The freedom of choice for business class guests has never been greater, and he's crossed out greater and written more complicated. Travelers can choose between 6 additional seat options, depending on whether they want an extra long bed, extra space, a work area, a seat with the baby bassinet. Yeah, a double seat.
It's great because compared to what they had, and also let's be honest, compared to the competition, they really have like a extra long bed, high doors, blah. It's just that it adds to the complexity of choosing. I'm wondering if they will price them differently or not. I don't have any idea. It will be very complicated if they do, but.
And you have to imagine that the airlines are full of engineers whose responsibility it will be to maintain these seats.
Yeah.
And
poor guys.
I hope that they had a seat at the table.
A seat at the table.
For these conversations and pushed back.
Which seat did they have at the table? Which are the options?
Well, yeah, did they have the long one? Did they have to pay more to get that seat? And pushed back and said, look, this is a beautiful seat. It's comfortable. It's going to sell well. People are going to go nuts for it. But this is going to cause delays.
Yeah, maybe.
For the following reasons.
I hope not. At least at the beginning they will be brand new. Or maybe they will be, I don't know. Imagine if they have to reset a seat and each reset button is different on each seat and the crew has to be taught how to reset a seat on every single. Anyway, in premium economy, it's the same premium economy that was already introduced on Swiss. I haven't tried it, but it looks really nice, with these hard shells, so you don't recline over the person behind you. And in economy, you will be able to pay to have the seat free next to you. And you could even buy the entire row like a la Air New Zealand to have a bed. They haven't announced the pricing, but it's nice to know that these options will exist. Apparently in business class, I love and I hate these kind of press releases. All seats are equipped with a heating and cooling system, giving business class travelers the flexibility to set their own temperature in a very humane-centric. I'm like, what? Basically, you have a button and you can choose a temperature. Yeah, it's nice to be able to do so. I did that on Emirates first. How effective it is, it's a different question. But anyway, so yeah, it looks like a great product. And Swiss, a week later, announced Swiss Senses, which is basically the exact same seats across the entire cabin. So whether you're an economy, premium, first or business, of course, it's part of the same group. So instead of being blue in first class, it's going to be bordeaux. So, of course, closer to the red of Switzerland, I guess. The only difference, and if you're interested, if you're curious, Swiss has actually released a seat map of their 333, where you can see how the entire cabin will look like. And I can already tell you that if you fly economy, choose 29D. You're not going to have the window, but you're not going to have any seat in front of you. So you're going to have like a extra long seat in economy. 2060 is the one you have to choose. There you go. By the way, on Lufthansa, the planes that will not get a refurb means the planes that will be abandoned is the 340-600. I think you like that one.
That thing that takes forever and ever and ever to take off. Actually, they all do, don't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that one. So that one is going to be replaced with the 350, which is going to be clearly the flagship of the Lufthansa Group. The 340-300 will stick a little bit longer with the fleet, but will be sunsetted eventually. And the 333 of Lufthansa will leave Lufthansa and go to Eurowings Discover. It's an airline that I discovered that I didn't know that Eurowings now has a long-haul product. I was doing a search recently to go, and that's going to be maybe the trip I'm going to do later this year. So I'm not going to spoil it. But it's only I find this, like, what is EV Discover? And I'm like, oh, Eurowings does a long-haul product. It looks pretty cool. It's basically more leisure-type destinations that Lufthansa won't do, and they gave them to Eurowings, which is a subsidiary, I guess, more, it's not low cost, but I guess it's more low cost compared to Lufthansa. So yeah, so you'll have some 333 there, and they undecided. Lufthansa has said there, I haven't decided yet if they're going to refurbish the 380 or not.
That Lufthansa Group is getting
huge,
complicated.
Yes, I know. I was about to get there. There's so many brands.
There's so many brands, and there's so much overlap. It feels like in terms of their market, because what you're describing sounds like what Edelweiss does in a are they?
Yeah, so Edelweiss in Switzerland is the counterbalance to Swiss, exactly. So Edelweiss is more leisure destinations. Edelweiss, do they do long haul?
Yeah, they do.
Punta Cana and stuff like that.
South Africa and
yeah.
But then you have, because Condor is no longer anything to do with
Lufthansa. I don't think so.
Thomas Cook, and then it was all.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's
although the logo looks very similar, strikingly similar to Lufthansa, which always confuses me.
But they have. There's a lot going on with that group, and I think the German leisure market, I know, is
huge,
disproportionately huge compared to the population. So you can understand why. But I think it's great for us. I mean, you want to run through some of those leisure destinations and run through Frankfurt. I know you wouldn't do that, but some of us who haven't been emotionally scarred by Frankfurt would probably do that.
You know, for price reason, I would go to Frankfurt and to have something to say on this podcast. The fact that these leisure airlines are getting better premium economy, and some of them are getting actual business classes and not, business class, which is premium economy. I mean, first is a sign that, leisure market is also going upscale. So some people just, want to have treat themselves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And for instance, the reason I was looking at Eurowings Discover is that I can use Lufthansa miles on Eurowings Discover. So I'm saying, there are destinations that I couldn't reach otherwise, because you know how it is, how basically British Airways and Virgin clearly serve what used to be the British colonies. And the French do the same, and all these countries in Europe have a special, like Spain does, serves Latin America, right? So, which is why it's great for IAG to have both the British and the Spanish probably.
Yeah, if you want to go to Reunion, you're going to go on Air France.
Air France, exactly. You have maybe some other solution, but the Germans didn't have that many colonies, and they offer a wide range of destinations. Some of them are not covered, but a pretty wide range of destinations for a single group. And suddenly I can say, I can use Eurowings Discover, and I can go in premium economy instead of going in an economy for a holiday. And it's going to be nice. It's not going to be like crappy premium eco because it's a 20-year-old plane that nobody wanted anymore and they just took it over, right? So I like that.
I do too. And those leisure airlines in Germany have got phenomenal products. Condor's new business class is the same seat as the new Lufthansa one.
It's amazing.
They came out first.
On Eurowings Discover, you'll get the current business class from Lufthansa, which has been criticized, but it's still an actual business class when you have a live fly seat. If you want to go to, I don't know, wherever and you want to do it as a treat and have business class and a lifeline seat, you can.
Yeah.
Whereas before you couldn't, which is what I'm pretty happy about. I don't know if I'm going to try any of those, but maybe Eurowings Discover. They're also going to have those seats, Lufthansa, to get back to the new seats the Lufthansa Group, I should say, because they're redistributing the aircrafts in the Dreamliners as well. It's narrower, though, the Dreamliner, than the 350. So I'm not sure. The only designs we saw were the designs for the 350 and the 330. The Dreamliner is narrower, so I don't know what type of compromises they will have to do on some seats, but we'll see. They'll retrofit as well existing 350s. They'll retrofit the 748. It'll be very fascinating to see what they're going to do in the 748, because that's really wide, so they could actually play a lot with, I don't know, the first class. I've done the first class, which is the current first class, which you're on 748, so you are on the lower deck and you're in the nose, basically. It's fantastic. It doesn't have doors, whatever, but it's really pretty private. I'm wondering how they're going to retrofit that into that space. I have no idea how this is going to work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see like a brand new product being rolled out everywhere. They're really spending a lot of money there. They also are expanding their orders. So they added more 350, 1000, 350, 900s and Dreamliners. They have also, of course, a 777X, which they're waiting forever. But it means that they have on order at least 100, 110 new aircraft. So they're really revamping the entire fleet.
Yeah, that's a heck of an investment. I mean, I think that they had a pretty crappy 2010s. And now they're, I think, finally coming out of hopefully.
Yeah,
I mean, this year has not started well for them. But I think all things considered, that was just a blip and otherwise an upwards trajectory.
And they bought, I mean, or have they? Are they waiting for regulatory approval? They're buying ITA, the Italians.
I feel like we've been talking about that since the very first episode of this podcast.
But I was going to add, so I'm wondering, I mean, yeah, they have, for context, guys, Austrian, Brussels Airlines, Lufthansa, of course, Edelweiss, Swiss, Eurowings, German Wings, Dolomiti. I don't know what they're doing with Dolomiti, because Dolomiti doesn't seem to get any of these aircraft that we're talking about. Dolomiti is kind of this weird, exact Pluto. He's like, is it a planner or not? Is Dolomiti part of the group, or is it like this weird thing? But maybe I'm thinking, would they fold Dolomiti within ITA?
Oh, that's a good point.
Maybe.
That's a great point, because they have, I mean, the name is no secret. They have a lot of destinations in Italy. So that actually is a very, very good point. Which brand will survive?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll see. Now, the second bit that I mentioned that I said, let's look for Lufthansa first, is a 747. The reason I'm mixing these two together is because we were discussing about the 747-400, and I completely blipped. But Lufthansa is actually flying 8 or 9 of 747-400 currently.
I see them over my house from time to time.
I just went this morning and I saw one to Bangalore, one JFK, one to Delhi, and one to AID. So Dulles. They're not going to be refurbished, but they're not scrapping them either for the moment. So you still have a chance, people who love the 747-400, to fly them. I haven't flown them for a while, this one with Lufthansa, but I think it's a pretty okay product. If you're lucky enough to fly first, it's this very weird but very fun seat when you have both a seat with a bed next to you. So you're sat, you're looking at your TV, and then on your left or on your right, depending on which side of the aircraft you have a seat. So you have a bed, so you can simply move like very lazily, stand up, sleep, and go back to your seat. They're two different things, but they attach to each other. And they're not scrapping them for the moment.
No, it's great. And Zan Marcan on Twitter messaged me to say that they are putting them back on the Palma route. So Frankfurt to Palma, 2 hours in the 747-400.
That destination is so popular with the Germans.
And he linked an article from Airways magazine, and it had all of these tips to make sure that you book the right flight so you get the full business class product.
Nice.
I am totally, absolutely 1 billion% going to do that, because 747-400.
Oh, please do, yeah. Because I think besides that, I think Asiana gave up Air China might still have them, but I don't know if they fly them internationally. That's otherwise there's no way to fly a 744.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, as a passenger, right? So Lufthansa is your best bet. And it's, for us in Europe, it's close. So, yeah. And I wanted to talk about the 747 because you went to Arlanda.
Yes.
And we talked about that in the previous to last episode. And I didn't ask you, what do you think about the 747 hotel that is next to the airport?
Somebody else mentioned that on the comments of my little Stockholm vlog that I did for Attaché. Like they asked me if and I saw it as we were driving back to Arlanda, and I saw
You can see it clearly.
and it just made me sad. I thought it was disrespectful almost. It just seems It seems wrong. It seems wrong. I can't remember if I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but my view is they should either be scrapped completely or they should be preserved. And they should be preserved as close to how they were in the wild as possible. I think and that includes things like taking the cockpit section off, or like they have at Hiller Aviation Museum in California, but that section is preserved as it was. That's a 747-100, or the engines and things like that. But I think when you bastardize them and turn them into a bar or a hotel or something, it just feels sad and wrong that this venerable old lady has been, whored out as some awful hostel for smelly backpackers. I just think it's wrong. I don't like it. I don't like it, which is why I didn't include it.
I get it. No, because I forgot to talk about it, because I saw it the last time for me was 2018, whenever I even hesitated to spend one night there, because it is contrary to what some believe, it is an actual 747, the Trust Hotel. It's not like some piece of plywood that
it's the real
like
deal.
A 747. And you can even sleep. I think there's one room that is in the cockpit or in the top or whatever or something. It wasn't convenient I was staying anyway, it doesn't matter, didn't do it. I might not have as a strong view as you, but I do get it. I understand. However, it's not recent, so it's not part of the recent abandonment of 747. This has been there for a little while already.
Quite a long time.
I think a little while. But yeah, I understand. Fair enough. I do understand. I don't know how well preserved. I mean, inside, clearly not, because these are rooms. Outside, I just saw it from the highway, so I'm not exactly sure how well preserved it is.
No, me neither.
But yeah, okay. Well, I just wanted to. We reminisced last time of our 747 stories, and I thought that this one, even though it's another reminiscence, it was important to mention. Oh, by the way, because who mentioned that to me? Yeah, the one, of course, story that I didn't mention, but I'm not going to do because it's on 107, is clearly my biggest memory of the 747 is seeing the one that was carrying the shuttle.
Oh, yeah, I'd forgotten you saw that.
Cap Canaveral in 1979 or 1980.
Unreal.
That was even before they even, blasted off for the first time. That was a great freaking memory to see the actual plane, the 747, land with that thing on top. And the entire the entire highway was backed up because everybody was looking and was like, what are they looking at? And then like, oh, wow.
An icon carrying an icon.
Exactly. That was quite something. Anyway, Madrid. So, MAD. You know what I realized? So I was doing the notes yesterday for this show, like a few notes. Like you see, guys, I'm following a thread. Otherwise, we're going to just ramble on. And I was like, okay, so Alex has been to Madrid. I've been to Dubai. We've done these airports many times. Which airport should we choose this time? And what I do in these situations, I go like, what is the one we did the longest time ago? And we can reuse that because we can kind of update our views. You know what? I didn't realize we never did Madrid as an airport.
What?
We never did Madrid as an
Really?
airport.
Given how frequently we both go there.
I don't understand. Probably it's one of these airports I will do one day, but with so many others to do. And because I have a list, guys, that includes a lot of airports that we've been at and never covered, like, I don't know, Kuala Lumpur. But Madrid, to have, like you said, spoken about it so many times and never been. So this episode is Madrid. Madrid, Barajas, and not Barrera. I know you've seen Barrera. Madrid. Guys, it's an inside joke. Alejandro Barrera is one of the good friends that Alex just saw there. So, yeah, we never did Madrid. So Madrid is going to be today the name of the show. And also, I want to quote that article that I sent you from the FT from last time, from Joe Elliott. Fair use, guys, if the FT is listening. I'm not going to quote the entire article. No, please don't give me a copyright. Every time you try to copy something from the FT, they give you like this. You shouldn't copy, you should link to us. Anyway, I'm going to link to you guys. So the worst airport in the world, that the name she gives to Madrid, on an epic yet failed odyssey last week, had a revelation. Sprinting for 40 minutes on disembarkation through arrivals along travelages via a giant car park to a bus on a highway to another terminal and a new set of departures on a further connecting train through the duty-free shop and down an interminable corridor to discover that I had, sadly, and by 2 minutes, missed my next connection, I came to this conclusion: Madrid Barajas is the worst airport in the world. It wasn't the fact that the separate terminals are about as handily located as planets in the solar system, so that in order to get from one to another in a timely fashion, you need to break the speed of light, nor that the social engineers who designed its mighty architecture conceived a winding pathway to ensure passengers are steered through every tiny dispensary and retail opportunity in order to direct you even further from your flight. No, it was a lack of signage that completely mystified me, not even in Spanish. There were no clues in sight. Travelers are presumably expected to intuit that Terminal 4S is an appendage to Terminal 4, accessed via a secret train that can be located only through employing spidey senses. Yeah. She kind of nailed that. She adds, though, and because I'm not going to quote the entire article, it would be too long, she adds that she found an enthusiastic staff member who jogged alongside her to, make her find her way, apparently showing her a faster route, which was through an empty concrete car park. I've never done that route. So if that is guys from Madrid, if there's a faster route from 4S to 4 that goes through an empty car park, I want to know about it. We want to know about it, because it's always a nightmare. So on that, I'm going to leave now Alex talk about Madrid and his experience there.
That's just broken my brain, because I'm trying to think how that works, because you have to go under the entire airport pretty much to get between 4 and 4S.
So Joe Elliott from the FT, tell us, maybe you were running, so you didn't have time to, you didn't have your spidey senses. You couldn't to locate yourself when you were running through that empty car park. But the guy had a badge and made a run. I don't know. Wow. I don't know, man. Also, it breaks my brain. I don't know. Maybe there's a secret car park under the runway.
You think about the T5 trains. And you can also, if you don't want to, you can walk, and it takes a while, but it's not faster.
Yeah, it's not. Those trains are super slow on T5, man.
Yeah.
So how was Madrid? Maybe let's start where how you went there, airlines, whatever, the usual. I'll let you speak.
I'm going to
rant. Oh, bless you.
I need to clear the vocal cords to. I've bigged up this rant. Actually, it's not that bad, but No, I know. I love Madrid as a city. I like Spain as a country very much, and I had the last time that Megan and I went to Spain, we went to Valencia and we went through Madrid, and our train was very delayed. So we had a credit, which I realized just a few weeks ago was about to expire on the Spanish railway system. So I thought, click. Guess what? We're going to Madrid next weekend.
Nice.
Used miles. Hardly any avios required, and I think it was like £1 in taxes and fees.
What? Oh,
so that bit's easy, yeah. On BA, with the intention to go to Toledo, which is just half an hour on the train outside of Madrid, to the south. Beautiful place. I'd never been there, but I can tell you now that I've been there. It is a beautiful place. And so we looked at these various flights, and I booked a flight that was due to arrive at about 6 o'clock in the evening. And then I booked a 8:30 train from Madrid Atocha station, which is right in the heart of Madrid. Thought that's enough buffer for any nonsense.
Yeah, should be.
We know that train station. We know how that all works and how you get there and how long it should take and all of that. So I felt confident that was enough. And Madrid worked really, really well because it is one of the handful of destinations for BA that is served out of Terminal 3 at Heathrow. Mm-hmm. And I'm now doing my BA Gold Card farewell tour. So I'm trying to experience all of these things that I will no longer have access to. And I've realized, actually, I think now that I've already had my last T5 first class wing experience and first class lounge, and I don't care. I just don't care.
Right.
I don't feel, I mean, you and I have talked about this on WhatsApp. I don't feel a sense of loss or sadness about that lounge.
Same.
The wing was good, but I don't care. But the one thing that I was sad to not experience again was the Cathay first class lounge in T3, knowing full well that I'm not going to experience the ones in Hong Kong, which have, as we've said on this podcast, are otherworldly. I wanted to find a way. So this was a really happy coincidence. And so we got to T3 in plenty of time. We were hand luggage only, so we just had our boarding passes. And I'd been bigging this lounge up to Megan for ages. And I thought, as we walked in, I hope I haven't oversold this. And also, I hope it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
In the pandemic, and
Right.
Cathay obviously are kind of a shell of what they used to be. And then I also had a twinge of panic as we walked up to the... I'm like, am I still allowed to go in here? Is it even open? I hadn't wanted to read, but of course it was all fine. We get in there. It's quite busy when we arrived because everybody that is One World Gold, or One World Emerald, I should say, which is the BA Gold equivalent across the Alliance, has figured out that is easily the best lounge in the terminal. And I'll come back to that. So it was full of people on, not just on BA flights, but on American Airlines flights, Finnair flights, anybody, JAL, anybody that had access to that terminal was in that lounge. So it was pretty busy. But
sorry to interrupt you right there. Do you think Cathay gets something from these other airlines every time a passenger from another airline comes? Because otherwise it's a money loss.
I believe they do. I believe they do. And I think that there's an understanding between the alliances, which is why they scan your boarding pass.
Yeah.
So that they can bill per passenger or something.
Yeah, cross-charge something.
I'm sure that there's some implication, because if your lounge is that good. And so
popular.
Yeah, and we got there at about 11 o'clock in the morning, so they were just switching between breakfast and lunch, but it was still the same, that small first-class area with the very comfortable chairs facing those floor-to-ceiling windows in the corner overlooking the tarmac and the runway, that little pocket of gates at T3, which we immediately snagged. Sadly, they don't have physical newspapers anymore or physical magazines. I used to love grabbing a copy of the South China Morning Post, but they do have Press Reader, and you can grab it all in there. It's not quite the same. And then the restaurant, which is table service, is still there. The menu looked fantastic, but we actually went around into the business class lounge to the noodle bar.
I was about to say that's the most important.
Because that weirdly, and actually not weirdly, that was almost empty. There was nobody in there.
Oh.
Because I think of the point I just made, where everybody's in their respective lounges for their flights because they don't have access to the first class lounge. And probably one assumes that if you have gold or emerald status, you know what you're doing. And you're the kind of person like you and me who's going to research.
That was my inkling. If you're silver, and we're not dissing people who are silver, but you might not have looked into all the options every time you go to an airport.
No. And so the road warriors are going to have that expertise and that interest to find these spaces. And actually, it was, I think maybe at about 12:30, the first class lounge emptied out as one of those flights. I think I'm fairly confident it was an American Airlines flight, but Megan really got a kick out of being able to order the famous dan dan noodles and the dim sum and the fried rice, and we really enjoyed it. And the staff there, of course, are really kind of friendly and fun and engaged. And we had a lot of time before the flight And I said, look, do you want to go and see the other lounges that we can get into? Because there's 4. There's the Cathay Lounge, there's the Qantas Lounge, there's the American Airlines Lounge, and then there's the BA Lounge. And I said, what? Let's go and have dessert in the Qantas Lounge.
Amazing.
So we go to the Qantas Lounge, and with the intention of not coming back to gathering up all of our stuff, and we'll go to the Qantas Lounge. Maybe I haven't been into the Admirals Club in London, so we'll try that as well. Maybe just poke our heads in there before we go to our flight. And the Qantas Lounge pre-pandemic was very good. It had a reputation for excellent food and a very interesting design. 2 floors, bright and airy, well lit. Felt like a hotel, like an upscale hotel lobby.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the chap that welcomed us into the lounge was very friendly and polite and kind of told us what was going on. But when you go into it, the lounge itself, it was a shell of its past life.
Oh.
It felt like a lot of the furniture had been removed. It lacked all of the character that it had. There was only like 4 people in there. There was no dining. Apparently, they only do ordered food in the evening now. There was a very sparse buffet. The wine and selection was not great. And I'd forgotten how crappy the views were. So we kind of did a circuit, and I just thought this is not what it used to be, and there's no point in hanging around. Let's go. And Megan said, why this looks kind of not as good as the other place. She's trying to be as diplomatic as possible. So I said, let's go. The American Airlines Admirals Clubs in the U.S. are getting better and better and better, and I'm quite a big fan of them, even before the T8 one.
Yeah.
So I said, let's go and check that out, because they're usually pretty good, and sometimes they have kind of like American candy or whatever. And we go in there, and immediately I was like, oh, we've made a huge mistake. We've made a huge mistake I've made a huge mistake by setting the bar with Cathay. Because while the lounge in isolation, the Admirals Club in isolation, is perfectly functional and acceptable, it felt like the lobby of a suburban leisure center. It was very tired and not great.
Oh, God.
And we didn't even bother with the BA lounge because I've been in there before, and it's a low-ceilinged, dimly lit crap hole.
I agree with the low ceiling. Of course, clearly, it's nothing to do with the Cathay, but it's not the word. I mean, you can sit there like if it's pretty long. You can walk. So you can hide in its corner at the very end and have some solitude.
Yeah, I like that. I think you're right, and I think every time that I've been in there, this was pre-pandemic, the last time I was in there. It was very busy because it's when JAL operated out of there and a few other airlines operated out of there. So it was constantly really, really busy.
Yeah.
But it made me realize just how good that Cathay Lounge is. And I'm happy because I have a year of access to the business class side of that lounge.
The silver,
which is still exemplary.
Yeah, I love it. Both are very good, actually. And like you say, maybe the business will be less busy at times because people that know will flock to the first knowing that they can. And I don't know. Yeah, wow. For context, I've read that Qantas is investing a lot. I mean, they're currently investing in post-pandemic. They're investing in aircraft, in service, in customer experience, etc. And that includes the lounges. And the lounge at Heathrow will be refurbished next year, and they will even open a first lounge, like a separate lounge for first-class customers. That's, of course, because of their upcoming flights that will take for 45 hours to go direct to Australia. So they probably would like to pamper you before you sit on a flight for 17 to 18 hours. So let's see. They might actually re-improve back to maybe not to the level of Cathay, but that they will. The people that have been to the refurbished lounges in Australia by Qantas tell me that they are great. So hopefully Heathrow will also get one that is great. One or two, actually.
Yeah, I think it's deserved because when it opened, it was
I remember
very well reviewed, and I remember going in there after it opened and being incredibly impressed.
Same.
So I think it's a shame that it's kind of dropped that, and that was my fear of what the Cathay Lounge was going to be like. That because their flights to and from Hong Kong have been reduced so greatly in the service generally, that the lounge product would have also deteriorated. But that absolutely was not the case.
Which is testament to the quality, because imagine maintaining the service and the quality and the expectations whilst basically having had no flights forever, basically almost like no flights forever, still having very reduced service, and maintaining the quality, keeping the investment, keeping the food, keeping the service. It's testament to Cathay Pacific to have done so.
Yes, absolutely, and
Wow.
I was very impressed, and I'm glad I will still have access to a part of that experience for at least another year beyond that. But the nice thing about where that lounge is in comparison to the rest of the gates is a very short walk to our gate. Mm-hmm. To I don't even know how to describe it. Chaos.
Oh,
there was no. I don't know if you can recall, but the T3 has these long piers of gates, narrow piers of gates. So there's not a lot of room to do separate boarding queues. So they didn't.
Correct.
There's no group 1, 2, 3.
I know exactly which gate usually you fly from at Heathrow with BA to these destinations, and they're the worst because it's very narrow, that bit.
It's very,
There's no way to do anything.
You get in, you do a passport check and boarding pass check, and then you go into a holding pen, quite similar to Gatwick. But there was no group to get in, group lines to get into the holding pen itself. Whatever, that's fine. But people were pre-selecting themselves to not participate in the queue and trying to get past. And, I was group 1 with a gold card and all of that. And I was very British about it and just gave them a withering look. I didn't say anything because what the hell was I going to do? We're all going to the same place on the same stupid airplane. Yeah. But it became very obvious this was going to be a full flight. And I'd looked on Expert Flyer and it was completely rammed. One of the unwritten gold benefits on BA is they'll block the seat next to you in economy if capacity allows. No chance on this flight.
Yeah.
And they were making everybody in group 4 and up or down, depending on how you want to describe it, as they checked their boarding pass, that you had to give them your carry-on bag to be checked in.
Oh, wow. So
it was not optional. They didn't do the can we please have some volunteers. It was if you're in group 4 through 9, 8, give me your bag.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well.
And so we didn't have to do that. We didn't have bags to check in anyway, or we didn't have wheelie bags because we were just going for the weekend. But
what plane was it? 320?
It was a 320. But what this did was because they were having to print out the baggage tags for every single one, it slowed everything down immeasurably. So the queue, the pace of the queue to just get into the holding pen was glacial. You'd think maybe that they would have had one person go to this person, they're going to print you a bag tag. Those of you that don't have wheelie bags or are in groups 1 through 3, come to me and just get out of the way and let's reduce this queue. No, of course not. They were both doing the same thing. And then the PA announcements were very, very quiet. You couldn't hear a word anybody was saying. So there was confusion about whether people needed to give their bags or not. So that was causing queues and problems. And the people said, I don't want to check my bag because I've got a connection. So it was a repeat of this chaos that we've both commented on in the last few episodes about BA's boarding process being just chaotic. There's no consistency. There's no protocol. And I think, again, it comes back to this institutional knowledge that's just evaporated during the pandemic. When we boarded, it was very obvious that we were going to be, it was going to be a scrum. And the woman kept saying very quietly on the PA, We board strictly by boarding groups. However, there are 64 passengers in Group 1.
Oh, there you go. Oof.
64 passengers in Group 1.
That's what we've been saying for a while, especially post-pandemic. Too much status means no status, because how do you deal with that?
How do you and I'll come on to it as well, because actually I think it answers a long-standing question that we've had.
Well, we're not going to recognize 64 people, that's for sure. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we boarded 64 people plus the chancers who try and go in on their Group 8 boarding pass. And interestingly, there was a thread on Flyer Talk just this week about this chaotic boarding process and how people are noticing it, not just at Heathrow and Gatwick, but also at outports as well, especially in North America. And they've compared it to American, who they say have it down to an art. And there's a respect. There's the main difference is if they have called Group 1 and you try and board a Group 3, they will kick you out of the queue and say, no, we're not. Yeah. The BA will not do that.
Yeah.
They'll just be very British about it, like I would have been, and just giving you a withering look. But it really slows down everything.
I know. It just doesn't work. I agree.
And so when we boarded, there were 12 rows of business class, which on the Madrid flight is not unheard of. It was like that pre-pandemic.
I was about to say, capital cities.
Capital cities. And it also, if we look back through the fog of COVID, there were wide bodies operating this route for both Iberia and BA at least once a day.
I remember that's why I was always going on a 777 when I was commuting is a big word, but 777 or the 340 from Iberia, I think was, because it was like cool. I can go like on a 2 hour, like, wider seat. Blah, blah, blah.
Exactly. And so that has been squeezed down, probably not to the same amount of flights available per day. So there's a capacity push. So 12 rows, and then you get back to, and even if you think, okay, everybody, all 48 of those passengers would have been in Group 1 by definition. And then you would have had the balance of that 64 are gold card holders or One World Emerald. So maybe we could say there's 30 people who were BA Gold, maybe 30. They're not going to go around while they're trying to do a tight turn and say, thank you for your custom, thank you for your custom, thank you for your custom. I can understand that.
Yeah, on a short haul.
It's just not going to happen. Maybe you're GGL. Maybe that's the kind of person you go. If we're going to do it, but we've discovered that this is a procedural thing that they are proactively not doing anymore.
I always had less issues of any airline not doing it on a short haul, because short haul I just want, let's go there. Come on, let's take off. Let's get there. It's an hour. Come on.
We're crammed in like sardines. I don't need to be recognized. When you have 12 rows of business class, it's just I don't care. I don't mind.
Yeah.
We're boarded. It's completely rammed. They're trying to get everybody in the overhead, not people in the overhead bins, but bags in the overhead bins. And there's a delay, creeping delay. The captain came on once and said, we're being delayed because there's not enough baggage handlers and cargo loaders to get the stuff on board.
Come on.
We're waiting for them to come from another flight. And again, we've talked about this. That's not a BA thing. That's something that BA have to endure like the rest of us. Yeah, it's Heathrow.
Well, yes and no, because some of the operations on the ground are also BA's owned.
Yeah.
Right? So because, Heathrow is a purely, here it's not you, I'm not lecturing you, Alex, for blues, especially in the US, Heathrow is a purely private airport. And you have lots of different handling companies, the usual Swissport, NATA, etc. So a lot of stuff has to do with Heathrow, but also some of the stuff has to do with BA's, subsidiary. So it's complicated. I'm not here to lay blame. I'm just saying, but Heathrow has clearly also a lot of blame on their hands.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then they were waiting on catering because there was not enough catering drivers to get the catering on board. And it was,
come on.
And by this point we were an hour late.
That's crazy.
And I'm thinking, are we really delaying a 2-hour flight by an hour for catering?
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I think what bothered me, and even Megan noticed this, was the captain, I believe it was the captain, came on and made that one announcement, and then there was nothing for an hour. No communication.
That's bad.
Yeah, it was. And I'm just looking out the window, and I'm seeing the cones still behind the engines. We're not going anywhere. When the only way I knew was the excellent Flighty app, which you reminded me of.
I love that app.
What our status was. I was getting the information way before it was being given to us as a flying cohort. But it really was representative of the state of BA at the moment, that before we even got in the air, and of Heathrow.
Yeah, when I'm going to go to my story at the end of this podcast, I'm going to tell you basically the same thing. It's actually IAG, and of course BA have warned. They just announced their results for 2022. They made like some profits, blah blah blah, and they said they were worried. That's the term they use for Heathrow's preparedness for the summer, and they're probably right. I'm not here saying, I'm talking to IAG. Don't just say it's just Heathrow, because also you guys. It's clear that Heathrow is I don't know. Heathrow. You remember how, and everybody here listening could go through. Some of you have been listening for a while. If you really want to listen to old podcasts, you can. We used to say that Heathrow was at capacity, 99%, the most at capacity airport to runway in the world, the usual. And that was the reason it sometimes had these hiccups, it didn't work. And now you're not at capacity. You're like at, I remember the number was 70%, whatever. You're not at capacity. You have less airlines, less flights, less ops, and you still cannot freaking make it work. So at some point, you got to stop the music and say, Heathrow, that's your fault.
Yeah.
So hopefully the new CEO, the CEO left. There's a new CEO. I think they're hiring. I hope she will come and kind of, shake it up a little bit, because there's no more excuse at some point, and even the whole understaffing, which I understand, it's been a year now, right? I mean, especially in the UK, we didn't have the last lockdowns like some countries had in Europe. So the real post-pandemic restart was end of 2021, or at least March 2022. And we are in March 2023, and we're still talking about understaffing and not enough drivers. And come on, guys.
Yeah,
come on.
It's infuriating. And I think the airlines, BA were very polite about that, because they know, as you say, that some of this is on them. But airlines like Emirates, Tim Clark has been very vocal about how crappy. Yeah. He said the airport is badly run.
Yeah, and not respecting its customers. Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's 100% that.
And not to preempt what I'm going to say, but anyway, you already said it in other podcasts. Compared to Gatwick, which I flew from at Emirates, Gatwick works.
Yeah,
they live in the same country, the same constraints. They have actually less money than Heathrow. They have only one runway. They also had understaffing issues and whatever. It works comparatively. It works. So at some point, Heathrow has to kind of stop just pointing fingers at others and saying there's issues and issues and issues. The issue is maybe you.
Yeah,
just look in the mirror.
I think it's true. It's frustrating, and as you said in a message to me, it's embarrassing as the capital airport that it's so badly run. And I thought that maybe I was just being a little whiny, but then you go on and you read articles and you read a flyer talk. Everybody's having the same experience. And when it works well, you're surprised.
Yeah, which shouldn't
be that way.
You should forget about an airport.
Exactly.
I mean, not forget in a way that you don't care, but I mean, if it's so blissful that it works so smooth, and blissful is not the right word, that's how it should be.
Yeah, and
we're clearly renting right now. Sorry, guys.
but now it's the opposite.
Yeah,
it's now the opposite, where when it does go well, you remember it. Yeah, but the flight itself is so BA have moved and completely to a buy on board system.
Okay.
So you get a bottle of water and those sour cream and onion pretzels, but they don't then do a run through the cabin with a cart where you can buy things. You log on to the Wi-Fi and you order the thing. So if you don't know that that's the way it does it, you get to top of descent and go, where I was going to buy a coffee.
You die of thirst and hunger.
Yeah, well, yeah. Which I was thinking about this on the way, because it's great because you can browse through it and you can order your thing. You put your seat number in and they pay and they bring it really quickly. I've done it in the past and it works really well. They've clearly done the maths and said, we have one less cabin crew because there's only 5 cabin crew.
Yeah.
We've got one less cabin crew, and it's probably we're making more money doing this than we would if we tried to shill going up and down the aisle. And I'd love to see the numbers on that.
But did they say it? Did they announce it?
Once they said, we'll do the Speedbird Cafe, and if you want to, you got to log onto the Wi-Fi and order it. But for most of the 2-hour flight, the cabin crew were just standing around and talking at the back of the cabin.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense that when, it happens especially on EasyJet or probably Ryanair, I haven't flown them for a while, but, they tempt you.
Yeah,
when you see
exactly.
the trolley, you're like, I was not going to have anything, but you know what, might have a latte. The little Pringles there, the small thing.
It's merchandising. It's classic merchandising.
Yeah, and it works, right? Whereas if I have to log on, plus, come on, sometimes logging on these Wi-Fi's in airplanes is getting better.
Yeah. It definitely is getting better.
But it's not, sometimes it's still a freaking pain. Yeah. And I'm not trusting BA with IT stuff anyway. Yeah. But meaning it has to work. You have to know how to do it, but you have to have this. Oh, I'm really hungry now. Or I'm really thirsty now. Or I really want a coffee because I have a meeting afterwards. Otherwise, for 2 hours, I'm just gonna wait.
I don't mind the process because it's quick. It means that there's not a trolley blocking the aisle for an hour of a 2-hour flight when people need to use the restroom. Yeah, so I can, from a passenger experience perspective, I think it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's fine. But they could make more money, maybe. I always do that. I always say I'm not going to buy anything on EasyJet, and I always buy something.
Me too.
Always.
And it'll be interesting to see, because they don't have Wi-Fi, so if eventually they move to that model. But we landed like an hour late, and into freaking 4S. I like Madrid airport because you see lots of, I haven't seen that airline in a while, or a LATAM 350. Yeah. That's a beautiful airplane and a beautiful livery, and you parked up right next to them and all of that stuff. So you see all that stuff.
It's cool.
Yeah. And then I was thinking like, crap, we have to get through all of this, then downstairs, all the way downstairs, get on the train, through immigration. The last time we were here in June, it's really busy. They're still doing oh my gosh, I'm just looking at my watch. The airport was empty. And so the immigration, there was nobody ahead of us. And of course, we don't, being British passport holders, don't get to go through the gates anymore, which is fine. But it is to get from the airplane at 4S landside in Terminal 4. It takes a long time, even when, because it's the physical distances, as the FT journalist mentioned, they're just gargantuan. I didn't get lost this time. I did not end up in Narnia. And we got an Uber. The Ubers go out of the parking lot, multi-story parking lot. The arrivals area was overflowing with people.
Wow.
Just the reunions and tour groups and student groups and all, just absolutely overflowing with people. So trying to navigate through that when you're in a hurry was kind of an obstacle course. But made it to our train, got there, no problems. I had forgotten also on the way back, I had that Iberia lounge in Terminal 4S.
Yes, the Vuela. What's the name?
I can't remember what it's called.
I've been so many times. It's like near to the duty free.
Yes,
at some point you make a turn left and
you go in. But to get there,
they refurbished it. I remember the tail end of 2019. They started some refurbishment. It was a bit better than I'd ever been.
Yeah, this was the first time I had been back. I'd been once since the refurbishment. But to get to that lounge, you have to fight your way through Madrid airport. And I had we checked in online, hand luggage only, got our fast track boarding passes, and the fast track VIP security, which is, not joking, brought to you by American Express now, is at the very end of the security, like you go past all the security lanes, past a block of duty-free shops, you go around a corner. I scan my boarding pass, and it says, okay, go through. Megan, who is on the same PNR as me, scans the boarding pass, and they're like, no, you don't have fast track. I'm like, oh, no, she's with me. Like, no, it doesn't matter. I'm like, no, we're on the same booking, and it says fast track. No, you can't bring guests through here.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I know for a fact that's not true. And you're fighting me on it. And I'm dangerously decaffeinated right now. So I'm going to walk away. And so all the way back up to the security, which was just overflowing with people, busy morning flights. And of course, I scan my boarding pass to go through security. It's like, meep, passenger already boarded.
Already boarded. Exactly. I was about to. Shit.
And so
Oh, God.
I'm really starting to lose my temper at this point because just the way that they spoke to me at the first place. And so I just said to Megan, just go through, because obviously hers went through because she was denied at the premium.
The other.
So I said, just go through. I'll see you in 7 to 10 weeks. I take it over to the security desk, and the chaps there were really nice, and I explained what happened, and they're like, no, you should have been able to go through. And I was like, I know that. Go and tell your colleague. But they fixed it. They actually took my passport and wrote down my information on a sheet,
A ledger
along with everybody else's. Yeah, I don't know what that was about, but the security, I don't know if you remember, but the way that the security is designed is it's very.
You talking the fast track here, or you talking the normal?
No, I'm talking about just the rows and rows and rows of people going through. Yeah. It's very confusingly laid out. So you can be ushered into a queue, start pulling your stuff out, and realize that belt's not working, and you have to go out and around to the belt that's literally on the other side of you, but the way they've designed it. And there's not enough space for people to unpack their items into the trays.
Yes.
Which slows everything down.
That's I hate. You know, when you have one tray and then basically there's 1 meter and the X-ray is there. You're like, why don't... This is why I appreciate about Gatwick and some other airports.
Where you have
these lines are super long.
Yeah.
So you have the time to do everything and you're not blocking, because otherwise you're blocking. You can see that the person in front...
Exactly.
And that's badly designed.
It is badly designed, and I think it makes me appreciate, as you say, Gatwick even more.
But many airports have that.
This is not a Madrid issue.
Thing,
but a lot of people were getting confused and upset and frustrated at the system. But eventually we all got through, and as you say, into the Iberia Lounge, which I had forgotten how good it is in terms of its as a physical space. Huge, long, nicely lit, floor-to-ceiling windows over a big portion of the airfield. Lots and lots and lots of chairs, comfortable, and little pockets of smaller areas as well. And food stations at one end of this long, skinny thing. The food was lounge breakfast. It wasn't phenomenal or anything like that.
It was never...
No.
That was never the attraction to that lounge, was never the food to me.
It wasn't.
The views on the LATAM Dreamliner is always fun, though.
Yeah, that was nice, and they had beautiful, fresh fruit. And I went to go find the restroom, and there's like a huge queue, and I was like, well, this seems weird. What's going on? And it turns out there was no water in the bathrooms.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. And so, they were diligently fixing it. It's not the end of the world.
Shit happens, literally.
Yeah, well, it really, it was. But that happens. That things break, and that happens, and the guys were already there fixing it. That's like water off a duck's back to me. But when there is systemic problems with things, that's when I obviously get frustrated. Weirdly, so I'm thinking, I said, the flight board's at 20 past 10. Let's head down at 10 a.m. and grab, a snack or whatever for the plane. And I look, and they're like, okay, anybody in groups 4 and 5, you're welcome to board now. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So they did have a separate queue for groups 1 to 3. So we just walked into that and onto the plane, which was, again, absolutely rammed. One just so full. And the seat between Megan and I was the only one empty on the entire airplane. But they were tagging everybody's bags with the yellow strap that says you must place it under your seat. And they really struggled to get everybody's cabin bags on board. And people's tempers were fraying. And I sat there and watched and just got really frustrated with my fellow human being, because we learned nothing from COVID. We learned nothing about, in fact, we became more
selfish,
focused on ourselves. Every man for themselves.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, people were going back to the terrible habit, which I thought we'd eliminated, of I get on board and I put my bag above 6A because there's a seat, there's a space, and then I walk back to my seat in 27F.
Yeah, I know. That's
come back.
That always...
And people were doing it, and they were doing it shamelessly. And the cabin crew were just chatting. They weren't helping. They weren't intervening. And we were starting to get delayed. And people were losing their tempers with each other and not being patient while an old lady would wrap up her coat to put above.
Okay, that's unfair.
And it really frustrated me to see it unfold in such a...
These bad behaviors.
It was bad behavior, and I know it was a morning flight, but it wasn't that early. It made me irritated. And then the captain came on and said, "Thanks for boarding on time. We're just waiting for a few last bits of cargo, and we're going to be gone. By the way,
what?
There's no water on the airplane, so no teas and coffee. Sorry, bye." And also, the bathrooms don't work.
What? Man.
So the bathrooms, yeah. So they're like, if you want to wash your hands, we've put out a bunch of hand wipes, but that's the best we can do. It was something about the pressurization of the water system wouldn't work. And again, it was a 19-year-old A320, and it was really showing its age outside and inside. The flight was easy, hour 55 minutes. We landed early, 25 minutes early because of generous tailwinds and leaving on time. When we pulled into T3, I was like, bet we don't have a gate. We had a gate. Off the plane in no time, through immigration in no time.
Well, at least.
So it worked, and it worked really, really well. But it really, the whole experience just made me thinking, this is not a flag carrier.
Oh.
And this airport is not a capital airport. It just isn't bad. And I was dissecting it in my head and out loud as much as Megan would tolerate all the way home and thinking, somebody said, was it, you sent me a tweet of somebody... I think a prominent technology person, I can't remember who was saying.
Oh, Benedict Evans.
When
he did 2 threads about the whole shebang about BA and AA and how nothing worked.
It's the last thing I want to say because I'm very, very desperate to hear about your Emirates flights because...
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
He said that Iberia and BA ostensibly merged over 10 years ago, but their systems still are in no way integrated. And I thought about that because it's been 10 years. This is absolutely what we should have expected to happen. When you put in charge people who ran shit airlines, forgive my language, but it's true. When you have gone to airlines that are, by reputation, bad, Iberia has never been called a great airline. Vueling is a categorically effing awful airline.
True. That one I agree, yeah.
And you take the people that ran those airlines and you put them in charge of something, I'm getting very upset about this, as venerable as British Airways and expect anything but shit, then you're a fool. And that's exactly what we have gotten.
Yeah, I agree.
I would drop my microphone if it wasn't attached to an arm. And I know it's more complicated than that, but I don't think it's more complicated than that.
No, but... I mean, if you hire people who have a low-cost mentality, and this is not a diss towards low-cost, because low-cost is good.
Absolutely.
But if you will get a low-cost end product, which is what BA kind of went towards over time.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've had that discussion even before COVID. I mean, COVID accelerated some of this perception and damaging image of the product. It was there already. Alex Cruz was there. We're already talking about the RIT. We're already talking about some of the decisions that we're making. And I don't know. And I don't want to rant either, but it's
You can't bring somebody from a low cost, and this is not just in executive leadership. It's not even just in the C-suite. It is throughout upper management, where they've taken, the only exception to that is the current CEO of BA who came from Aer Lingus, but he hasn't been in post that long.
Yeah, he seems like a good guy.
Yeah, he does seem like a good guy, at least at the very least, really. Ambition to restore BA to where it used to be. And if you look in the 80s and 90s at the leadership of that airline, they were all from, for better or worse, legacy carriers. And so it ran like a legacy airline, again, for better or worse. And then the shift of priority changed in the noughties, post 9/11, again, understandable, post financial crisis, again, understandable, but something, and I know I'm not alone in this, but maybe I think my enthusiasm for this is rarely eclipsed, but something has to change, and I am not sad to be losing my gold status with BA.
No, I get that. I think, and then we'll move on because discussion we can have at every episode.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why it feels like a broken record.
But I think at some point there was this discussion that Air France was having back 10 years ago. Should they split between a long-haul operations, which would be premium, and a short-haul European operation, which would be basically competing against the likes of Ryanair, EasyJet, Vueling, Viz. And of course they couldn't do it, especially because of a lot of labor pushback, so there were even strikes, so they never really did it. I don't know the extent of it, I don't know the full history, but the idea I get, because it's true that at some point you would say the image of glamour and service that I want, and we said it ourselves, even including today, is I want and expect a good service or even to get recognition when I fly medium to long haul. On a 2-hour flight, on a 1-hour flight, it's okay. Just have it organized, so it's not chaos, right? And I think that, does that mean that they should separate and call it BA Europe and BA? I don't know, maybe not. But I'm saying the expectations do not align anymore with what we expect it to be. And I don't have the history of you, and of course even more other people around us who've known BA not only through what it represents in our head, but also because they've flown it in the 90s, in the 2000s, even before, obviously. But I think they just don't know what they want to be. And that's the worst. Decide what you want to be. And it's for every brand, every product. If you decide what you want to be, where you want to go with it, just go.
100%.
And some of us will not be happy because we'll be nostalgic about what it was and we're not happy what it is. But at least we'll be, okay, that's their decision. It seems that the messaging of BA is all over the place. They want to go back to being premium, but at the same time they're not. And we're like, I don't know what they're doing. And that creates confusion and then creates the kind of anger, the likes of anger that you just, maybe it's over, that you just had.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the other person is. You're like, who am I talking to here? Right?
No, you're right. And it's all context. It does.
Obviously.
I think it's easy to dismiss what I'm saying as, well, You're still going on holiday. You're still going to all these places. I know. I'm in a freaking tube and I'm flying.
Amazing.
That's never lost on me.
No.
But it's still, you wouldn't say like, if your iPhone was crap and the customer service was crap, well, you can still make phone calls. the promise has been established in the heritage of the brand, and you have a duty to that brand to live up to it.
Yes. But that's the thing. The brand doesn't know where it is and what it is today.
Exactly.
And what it wants to be. It wants to be everything for everyone or nothing to no one. And you're like, make a choice. Just make a choice. It's not clear. And thus, we're all confused. And every single person who flies BA has a different expectation of what BA should be.
100%.
And that creates that whole mess that we're in. So, yeah. Before we move on, the butter.
What did I say about the butter?
Megan saw something about the butter.
Oh, God. Yeah, that they would basically recycle it. Like if you didn't use the butter on your tray, this is on long haul, they would take the butter and put it back in a basket to redistribute, which seemed not okay.
I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, you know what? I said earlier I don't like food waste, so.
Exactly.
Yeah, she said, did you notice on our last BA flight, they collected everyone's unused butter packets and put them in a cup when they collected our tray. Do you think they're going to reuse them? And I said, well, now I do.
Soylent Green, butter is people.
I feel like perhaps you didn't have that on your Emirates flight.
No, just one word about Madrid before we move on. Madrid, we've basically talked about T4. T4, I think the design is amazing on the T4 normal side of it.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it with the wood and this roof and everything. Mm-hmm. T4S, it's a distance more than anything. So T4S is one world and Iberia operations, like basically long haul, and including the UK because of non-Schengen, etc. 1, 2, 3 are a bit all over the place. That's where you would end up if you fly, for instance, EasyJet. The thing is, I have a memory that in 2019, I think they wanted to bring a sense of cohesion between 1, 2, 3, and 4 in terms of design. So basically bringing 1, 2, 3 into the design of 4. I have no idea now post-COVID, but still, for me, it's not my worst airport. I don't like 4S, but it can be okay, especially if you land at the right location in that airport. It can be an okay airport, but it should be better. And I agree with you that the staff at Fast Track always have bad memories of staff being a bit rude, even though, nothing like you was not... the system says no, the system said yes, but even though the system said yes, I never found them very welcoming. Yeah. That's the only downside. But anyway, it's not a bad airport. Look, I just wanted to say, Oman Air is joining OneWorld.
I missed that. That's exciting.
Yeah, apparently they're joining OneWorld, and there's a rumor that they will also join Avios, like Air Europa might join Avios too, of course, because now Air Europa has been finally... a stake has been bought by BA or IAG.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, Oman Air is an airline I really want to try. So they were not part of any alliance up to now, which is, good for them. I'm hearing they do a lot of investing in the product, so it could be fun. And to your point, that's the one I want to mention. Guys, Nonstop Dan on YouTube, I put a video about a review of BA.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of these. He does pretty nice reviews, actually, overall, if you watch. I'm not really someone who watches a lot of these reviews.
No, me neither.
There's two things that struck me with this video, and the video is basically don't fly BA, so you cannot miss it, guys. It's on his. But there's two things he said. The first thing he says, for an airline that is so storied and so known, there's very few reviews of BA online, and he's right.
He is right.
Not that many people are interested, which also tells you something. But basically, the review goes for a pretty normal review when actually a lot of the good stuff about BA is being acknowledged. Is a long-haul product, so the BA Club Suite. And then the last 10 minutes of the video is the clusterfuck between BA and Heathrow, and is exactly similar to the lines of what Alex has been describing. And he ends up by saying, why would you fly to Heathrow at all?
Yeah.
I mean, unless you go to London. And I do kind of sadly agree. Watch it. You might disagree. You might find him ranty or not. I think he has a point that there has to be a wake-up call both at BA and Heathrow.
Yeah.
And this is why I chose to go to Gatwick. So, no, to be frank, the reason I chose to fly from Gatwick was because first I had a budget from the client. I wanted to fly business class. The prices are horrendously expensive. So I was looking up upgrade options. And I looked at the seat map of the same 380 because they all 380s service from both airports. There were more free seats. So that's why I decided to go to fly.
That's very smart.
At the end, it was not a choice of airport, though it became one. By the way, for those who don't know, the prices are almost exactly the same. They're usually like a 7 to 10 pound difference for a flight from Heathrow or Gatwick. Gatwick will be £7 less, so it's really not a big difference.
No.
It's the same price. The first thing I'm going to mention, because I told you already, Alex, on many times, but last time once more, because it feels like we're in 2023 and it's the only airline when you can do it easily. You check in on your app and you can change your seat anytime after you check in.
It seems so easy, doesn't it?
You're not locked into a seat.
But maybe it's not easy. I don't know.
Yeah, they're the only one who do that. That's really cool. But Gatwick, the same article that Joe Elliott, journalist, wrote about Madrid, there's this sentence she writes later. She says, crappy travel expectations do make it all the more exciting when finally you reach somewhere in which everything just works. Well, Gatwick, everything just works.
Yeah.
I go there, I arrive in the morning. It was in the 9 a.m. service. I arrive a few hours before. The security, the space, the automation of it, the layout, just everything works. And at some point, I've had that bit like I still in my head kind of, Heathrow, I should choose Heathrow because Heathrow seems more premium, but is it actually more premium? Sometimes I ask myself the question, or is it just that, and I'm going to include myself here, I want to be a posh wannabe and I see that, oh, no, the plebs are going from Gatwick because there's EasyJet. I'm flying from Heathrow because I'm important. And actually, you know what? It doesn't work. Gatwick is, for me, the better airport in London. Yeah. That's it. You've heard me in the past saying that a bit. Now it's just sure.
Yeah.
There are some long walks, but I mean, you just mentioned there's some long walks at T3 at Heathrow. There's some the walk from T2A to T2B at Heathrow. It's just horrendous,
It's long, yeah.
It's funny because I remember at the very beginning of the opening of T2B at Heathrow 10 years ago, guys, they were telling us, well, we're going to install a train. At some point, these kind of promises have to go somewhere. I understand that COVID happened. I understand that they have had limitations of whether or not Heathrow can build a third runway. But don't just say stuff and just nothing happens. The Terminal 1 that sits there for nothing. The Terminal 3 that's not being upgraded. Anyway, Gatwick is a better airport. I had really a good time there. The lounge of Emirates is it bigger? Maybe is it bigger than the one at Heathrow? It doesn't have the same quality of views, but it's a nice lounge. It was rather empty, which is very rare. I was thinking, will my plane be empty? There's no way. Usually they're completely full. The only tip I'm going to give you about that lounge, Emirates lounge at Gatwick, if you queue for the coffee machine, it's like, why? There's always so many people queuing for the coffee machine. Just walk, you go on the right side, just keep going where the windows are until you arrive at the opposite end of the lounge where nobody goes because, people kind of tend to cluster to the big area of any lounge. That's where the business center is. There's an additional coffee machine that nobody ever uses because there's nobody there, and then you never queue. And it's only like a 2-minute walk. So that's my tip for you if you ever go to that lounge.
There you go.
So everything, again, I walk there. There are 380 gates. They're always the same at Gatwick. I walk there. It's not a long walk. It's unlike what you just said. There's a line for business gold. I go, I show my thing. There's no one. I get there immediately in the flight. It's really, basically I don't think about it. I enter the flight. I sit in my usual 23A. This time the Emirates flight, compared to my last experience, is fresher. It's still 2014, 2015, but it's not the oldest Emirates product I could have. When I was sitting there, I was like, I'm curious, are they already the refurbs? Are they already there? And I learned that there's only one or two. The first one was rolled out in end of January. We're now beginning of March. So the new refurb program, only now they're coming into line. So I will end up flying one, but it's not the case. The crew was amazing, particularly smiling and fun. We said something about the anticipation of flying in a 747, which we don't have anymore. I mean, you might do that Palma, Frankfurt to Palma. The only other aircraft that have really that feeling is a 380. And I was so happy. It's not a business success compared to the 747. It's not as iconic. It's arguably ugly as an aircraft to look at. But it's such a great airplane to fly.
I agree completely.
And it's huge. And it has this promise of long haul. And I'm so happy that I've flown it so many times. And once more, I was about to fly it. So I was really happy. I sit in my 23As, the small cabin at the very end of the upper deck, just before the very famous and iconic bar. And I like that because it's smaller. It's not because it's close to the bar, guys. It's just because it's small. I like it. And 23A is a bulkhead. It's slightly more space, and I kind of like it. The only downside to that seat is that because there's a bulkhead, you might have babies around you. And usually I never had babies just because out of sheer luck. Not that I dislike babies, obviously. This time I had one next to me. So in 23, what would it be? A, B, I think it's C because they discard one seat. And clearly he was Greek because I heard, of course, the parents being Greek. And as a Greek, I'm not sure that he would already say Malaka, but he would be loud. And I was right. Very, very loud. But and yeah, I can get away with Malaka because I'm Greek, so I can say it. At the end of the day, toddlers are the future of humanity. So without them, there's no use. So I'm never complaining about babies. I was having fun with him, like making like gestures and whatever, because there's no door. It was fun, and then when you fly, you have your headphones and you basically don't hear. The thing is, I turn on the other side and I see the window. And there's 3 other babies. The 3 other babies were 321s LRs from JetBlue. And I was happy to see 3 of them, man. 3 of them at the ground at the same time. The operations is ramping up.
Yeah, they do two JFK and 1 Boston. Phenomenal.
I was very happy to see that JetBlue is ramping up in Gatwick, and of course they are also at Heathrow. Anyway, then and there were also a few Titans on the ground. Clearly, I was going on Plane Finder. I know that BA is hiring a lot of Titans lately.
Yeah, EasyJet too, use them.
And then we are off. Everything, that's the thing with Emirates. Everything works. The supervisor comes in the flight. She's so good. She's not scripted. I mean, she knows her sentences by heart probably, but it's just so nice. And it's nothing, over the top. Just they're talking to you very casually while still recognizing that you're gold, because I'm gold and I've actually been renewed by Emirates. And it's just very welcoming and very warm and very, light. It just works. And yeah, what the heck are you doing? Everything works out. Really nothing to say that his flight. It just worked perfectly. One thing I'm going to say, however, on the IFE, it's still good. The IFE of Emirates is sometimes almost confusing. So many things going on at the same time. What I'd like, and that's because now we've been used to streaming services. You know how it is when you start any kind of show and you have this skip to skip
the intro.
I must have seen it before, and that's every airline. But Emirates, before every show, whether it's a TV show or a movie, they will show you a bit on Emirates and their entertainment system and how great they are. And I must have seen that 5 million times. By the way, I know exactly. In a TV episode, I need to go through 2 minutes 58, and that basically means the end of that bit, and I can start the show. But can they not just have a skip button, guys? Yeah. Emirates, if you're listening, can we have a skip button? That would be pretty nice. Anyway, I arrive at Dubai. I'm still a bit confused at arrivals at Dubai because it changes every time. This time, I could not use the e-gates because I had luggage. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't understand. So I had luggage in the hold, not luggage with me, whereas last time I had only carry-on only. And they didn't allow me to go to the e-gates. I had to go through.
That's interesting.
I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. It still worked. It was fine, So meaning I just don't know what the procedure is there actually, because it changes every single time. As in every airport, they have new cameras to take a biometric picture of you, and as in every airport, it's too low for me, so I need to crouch to have my pic being taken, which is always a very nice sight, I guess, for the guy behind me. Anyway, they gave me a 1 gigabyte free SIM. Data.
Yeah, when we went through, when we came back from the Maldives, they gave us that at immigration. It's a very stern-faced woman gave us a
They're very stern always.
Passport stamp and a gigabyte of data, which actually quite useful.
Yeah, but it's nice that you do that. I mean, I already had a plan so I was like, so I haven't used it. I'll keep it for next time. Anyway, in Dubai, it was fantastic. My same conference I go every year, STEP. I visited a new public library. I mentioned that because I think Mark, our friend, the pilot Mark, loves public library. Mark, you should you should visit a new public library. It's very nice. It's in a kind of secluded area, which, it's now being built. It looks like a book. What I really loved is on both sides, you still have these old shipbuilding yards.
Oh, wonderful.
They're building ships in wood.
Oh, the old dhows, yeah.
And then in the middle, you have this wonderful new public library, super modern. So this contrast was really, really nice. And also visited the art district. If you guys like art galleries, All Circle is really, really nice. Anyway, then to the return, I will say that Dubai, because of the choice of colors of the airport, there's a mix of red and blue, and it started to age a little bit. I think it needs to have a little bit of a refurb as well. Certain airports choose colors that are very neutral, and that usually they stand the test of time longer because, if it's neutral, it's going to be neutral in 20 years. I think Dubai should think about maybe putting a little bit of paint there. I don't know. It's, the usual 6 a.m. and it's super cramped because a lot of people, the flights are leaving. Everything works fine. Another little gap I'm seeing, I'm going to the Concourse A, which is my favorite, with the business class lounge, which is an entire floor, as you've been as well. Well, it's been 10 years, it's open, right? And it's still great. It's still one of my favorites. But you can see their gaps because you can see the same way you mentioned yourself earlier about the Qantas lounge at T3. There are shelves that are empty. There are, stuff that is there that makes no sense and it's not abandoned. Is it because post-pandemic? I don't know. It just feels a bit weird. It's not fully there. It's still super great. The food is nice. The crew is nice. Though I suspect there's less staff than before. But it's it's 10 years and it's showing a little bit that it's 10 years. It's really funny how they keep telling you when, I don't know if you experience that, when you enter the lounge there, they say, this is a silent airport, so do not expect announcements. Only that in an hour and a half I was in a lounge, probably has been 15 announcements of like, this is an exceptional announcement for missing passenger of flight EK. So you're like, basically, yeah, it's a silent, so only that everybody seems to be missing their flight, so they're making an announcement every 30 seconds. My aircraft is also a 380 on the way back. It's nearly 9 years old. Actually, I had flown it already because I always checked, the tail number. So I knew
nice.
I've flown that one in September 2019, actually. And that's where I want to talk about recognition, because, of course, that's their hub. So it's their capital city, their hub compared to Heathrow and BA. I enter the flight, and when I give my boarding pass, of course, on the boarding pass, it says gold, and they say, welcome back. Just call me Paul. They smile. I go to my seat, 25A, because 23A this time was taken. So 25A is not bulkhead, it's really nice as well. And within the first 20 minutes, I was recognized thrice. 3 different people came to me to my seat in the first 20 minutes.
Unreal.
One with the first drink. So do you want champagne or apple juice, whatever? She knew, welcome back. And she did a little spiel, very nice. Number 2, I remember she was called Nadia, because I think she was the crew that was taking care of our cabin. She came to explain that we would have today a different sequence for food. So if I wanted to sleep first, meaning it would not be breakfast as usual, it would be lunch. If I wanted to sleep for 2 or 3 hours before the lunch, I could do that. She explained me that, and all the while recognizing my gold status. By the way, I cannot remember a different sequence. Does that mean that they changed? I don't think it makes a big difference economically to go from breakfast to lunch. It's not really cost cutting because it's the same, right? They have to still load a shit ton of stuff in the aircraft. I don't know, man. Anyway, and the third is the head of the cabin, a pursuer. I don't know how they call it at Emirates. She comes and says, please share anything with us before we land, good or bad. Of course, we hope it's not bad, but do let us know. I'm always here. And at the same time, I'm thinking, oh shit, did she listen to layovers when I was saying that there were gaps on Emirates last time? Anyway, and all that in the first 20 minutes. And then that's 4 recognition in total. And then during the flight, the head of cabin, of course, came back twice, went to say hello, and another time, 1 hour, the same one that asked me about my experience, 1 hour before we land to say how was my flight. And I don't know, I'm not the only gold member on that flight, and they did the effort, and it was very nicely done. And I'm like, again, what the hell are you doing, BA? And the plane is completely full, because that route from London to Dubai to London is crazily oversubscribed, man. It's crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It feels to me that they've done the drinks order with status, starting with status. That's why they probably have this little iPhone in their hands. And I told you last time, it seems to be random. I think they have some kind of order, and maybe they started drink orders with the gold or platinum, which is even above me, and then me. I'm not sure. It was a great flight, great food. And again, I don't have anything to say especially because I've flown them so many times that it feels like a home to be when I fly Emirates. Of course, we land at Heathrow, because I chose to fly to Heathrow. And honestly, I should have chosen Gatwick. We land and there's no gate, and no gate for 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes. And the captain is like, ground cannot give us an update. We don't know when we're going to have a gate. So we wait 45 minutes and there's still no gate. Anyway, the same, I said it earlier. What are you doing, Heathrow? You didn't work when you were at capacity. You don't work when you're not at capacity. As Sunil Karkera at Glue Code said on Twitter, Heathrow works hard to disappoint. Anyway, and then, I finally ended up going out. Everything went okay, as it does when you're finally out of the airport. I could actually see every time I'm baffled with the operation of the chauffeur, so the cars, I could see the iPad of the guy dispatching all the cars with the passenger coming. It's quite an operation. And that's what I'm going to finish this podcast with, because we're slightly over time. Yes, there are gaps, and I mentioned them last time, and it was not this time, because this time overall it was a great experience. And I keep repeating it, and it maybe is sad for people who are starting listening to us recently, and they say, well, Paul is talking about Emirates, but doesn't really say anything about Emirates. The point is, Emirates is absolute consistency, and consistency at scale. That's what you get at Emirates. And that's why it's sometimes so hard for me to remember what happened on which flight. Because literally every single flight is very consistent to the other one.
Yeah.
I mean, I had the little gaps last time. I told you where the seat didn't work and it was an old aircraft. But you know what you're going to get, and you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And it's very, very rare to being able to keep that promise on such a huge network. So again, yeah, there are gaps. There's no doors on business class where now everybody has a door. They keep like stubbornly keeping their old 777 business seats, which is like 232 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? They know. They fill their planes. They know what works with how many seats per aircraft, and they deliver. They deliver, they deliver, they deliver. I mean, you can fault them for a lot of things, compare if you like go on the nitty-gritty, or like I just said, the type of product, the type of seat, but it just effing works. And they have the 380.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the reason that I will keep trusting them. And you know what? I'm thinking, and it's going to be my finishing thought, I'm thinking sometimes, is Emirates a bit like Apple? You know, like when you think about Apple, everybody is telling them, why are you not doing a folding smartphone? And they're not doing a folding smartphone. But the day they're going to do a folding smartphone is going to be the best damn folding smartphone ever.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's exactly maybe what Emirates does. It's like, yeah, you know what? We're not changing the seats on the 777. We're just refurbishing the current seats on the 380. Because the day, maybe that's with the 777, who knows? But the day they're going to actually introduce a new product, and that's the same with the premium economy, they waited and waited and waited. But when they introduce it, it's probably one of the best, if not the best, new premium economy.
Yep.
When they're going to introduce a new product in a few years, it's going to be the best one.
100%.
And it's going to do it at scale. And that's what Apple does. They have a new phone and they sell 80 million in the first 5 minutes. Well, Emirates has the same idea. They have like, yeah, the day we're going to do it is going to be consistent and is going to work at scale. So consistency at scale is admirable. And for that, I still congratulate, and I will always congratulate Emirates. And I'm going to keep flying them. There you go.
Beautiful.
I don't know if it was beautiful.
Well said. And I couldn't agree more with that.
It's impressive.
Why would you? Yeah. When it's good and you want it to be consistent. And that's what they've nailed.
And it's just good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, Alex, I know that we went a little bit over time because, guys, you didn't realize we had a little technical
glitch on my end, yeah. Power surge or something.
Disappeared in the editing. Yeah, the power surge is because you're the Flash. So where are you flying next?
New York.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. Why am I asking? And that's in like a week or something.
A little over, I know, a week tomorrow, yeah. Shit.
Oh, God, I'm so jealous. Are you staying long? Are you staying for a few days? Or?
Yeah, 4 or 5 days.
Oh, my God, I'm very jealous. So after that, we'll come back with probably the episode will be about JFK T8 this time.
Yeah. Yes, I'll do a little bit more digging.
Exactly. I don't know when, Yeah, I had a flight. It was postponed, maybe canceled. Now it's back. I don't know. So I'm not going to say anything. Maybe I will have flown this month. Maybe not, which suits me if I don't. Or it's going to be next. So I don't know. We'll talk about it. I don't want to spoil the destination because if it happens, it's going to be very different. If it doesn't, maybe another day.
Exciting.
And on that, I'm going to play the end credits, which are right here. Yeah, guys, I know what Alex is going to fly in the US, and I'm so... I want him to explain, and I want him to review it. I want him to see if he's going to like it or not. No, I'm not going to say anything yet. No, nothing more, buddy. I hope it's not going to be renty next time.
No, I know. Sorry for that.
No, don't.
It's cathartic. Okay.
No,
I don't think I need to talk about BA anymore.
When we love, that's when we actually are more angry.
Exactly.
Yeah, we love BA, and by the way, I think it's overall. We love these airlines, so we don't want them to fail. We don't want them to keep sucking.
Absolutely.
Right? Exactly. Bye, guys. Happy flying.
Safe travels.